Good afternoon. My name is David Boussier, and I am recording this video. I believe I am correctly recording it. I believe it's asking to record myself as I put together a presentation for how to run a strategic SDR management team. I want to give a little background on myself. I've been in sales and marketing and business development for about 15 years. I started as an SDR, BDR almost 20 years ago and began my career really focused on what it meant to drive initiatives with only a phone and a phone book. I had really started my sales career way back when there was nothing but our own intuitive minds and a phone book giving us some information about who to call for a business. And we were selling advertising, game day advertising spaces in a sports catalog. And that really got my cold calling skills really unmatched. And that has taken me through my career for almost all of my sales career. But there was a gap between doing what I love, which is sales, and what I was doing prior to that. After college, I got a master's degree in college student development and counseling, specifically working with young professionals right out of college who were looking to have their first careers. And I was a advisor and counselor for that age group. And I spent a number of years doing academic advising as well as career advising for what it meant to actually have a career right out of college. So I spent several years doing that. In addition, I spent some time getting certified as a energy and life sales coach. I am certified to train and enable professional salespeople to become more skilled in how to take a sales deal from a business development angle to secondary to a pipeline sales development and move it all the way through the sales stages to a close. So I really consider myself an SDR manager who trains people to become account executives and proficient sales people, and eventually maybe sales managers. But that was my career. Before I got to that, I spent a number of time as an account executive myself after being an SDR. I spent a number of years carrying the bag and learning what it meant to have to carry a quota and the stress and the anxiety of what it meant to do that. So I spent that number of years doing that before working at a company where I was the first U.S. hire for a German European company to build out an entire North American presence. And I was brought on to help build out the sales team. And from there, I was able to hire, recruit, train, onboard both BDRs, SDRs, as well as account executives. And I spent about 4 years there, just under. And I was really lucky to have that experience because it really trained me what it meant to have to build out something as if it was a startup. And I know this company is not a startup, but I know that application can be really helpful. So moving on, I ended up to my most recent career as a business development manager for a enterprise financial software program for a Irish company. And that's where I've spent the past year building out almost $17 million in pipeline in 6 months, mind you, of pipe. So, and that's active deals. So we're pretty excited about the results. So saying that, I want to start to move into how I would begin my career with your company and how I would integrate myself initially in the first 30, 60, 90 days as well how I would strategically build out a SDR team that would be built on outbound and some inbound cadences that would reflect the type of strategic thinking that I do towards building deals. That is the most important aspect of what I do. So the first 30 days of any SDR manager, it's really about settling down and getting to know your space. That is the most important thing. And really, it comes down to understanding your organizational chart and what it means to actually get to know the leadership within the company and who you are going to be working with. Setting up times to strategically sit down and have conversations with people in marketing and operations, as well as senior leadership as VPs of sales, to get to know their go-to-market strategies, to get to know how they've spent the past year building pipeline in itself and what it means to actually now come on board and try to strategically do new initiatives. I can say from my past experience that it takes a real committee of people to work together collaboratively to actually make these things happen. So I would spend a lot of time setting up one-on-ones with people to get a deeper understanding of our team and who to trust and who to build relationships with. I find that building the relationships with demand generation marketing is clearly the best asset I can really build on. They are the go-to market strategic thinkers, and they are the content and builders of the messaging behind everything that we do in business development and sales development. And having relationships with them so they can collaborate with our SDRs on campaigns as well as initiatives to go into net new business, as well as converting business from existing customers that might be acquired from acquisitions. I think it's about immersing yourself in documents. It's about immersing yourself in all the information about both the product as well as the past sales initiatives. It's critical you know the business. It's critical you understand how the business operates and how the business does itself think and operate in the past 2 years. You want to look at pipeline that has been built and what is still active, and really understand who actually built that pipeline and how they qualified it. The strategic thinking of a really successful SDR manager is someone who looks at the past as well as taking a new go-to-market strategy and how you're going to apply that to the future. A lot of go-to-market strategies have been based on inbound strategies and email marketing alone. We will get to those topics later in this discussion, but it's really critical you understand that strategically you need to be outbound in multiple ways. We'll get to that in a minute. In the 30 days, we will continue to discuss how we're understanding the heads of the sales appetite of VPs. They're very interesting in the way they operate. The perception and the challenges and the drivers of these people are critical to what we're looking to try to accomplish. It's so critical that we understand how they see the market, the places that we're going to, the personas that we're operating within. These go-to-market strategies have probably worked for them in the past, but you're being brought in to bring out a new go-to-market strategy, and that's what I'm applying here. I will discuss my go-to-market strategy in just a little bit. Really about understanding the shortcomings in the previous sales managers and where they were able to achieve their goals. Learn from those sales managers and trust heads of sales, because that's critical for a relationship that's going to go beyond that. I want to side note say that I built a presentation, but I was told in this thing that I had to do a presentation of myself. So I'm working off my presentation. I want to understand leadership and next generation selling workforce. I want to understand how the leadership is leading the account executives within the organization, how they're challenging them to qualify pipeline when it's brought to them, when a deal is brought to them. How are we engaging with them to make sure that this is the best way to get a deal to move forward in the sales cycle. I want to make sure I understand leadership in such a way that I'm collaborating with them in such a way that it really reflects the whole company's go-to-market strategy. My go-to-market strategy is a very outbound based, and it's in a very account-based, marketing based, and I'll get to that in just a few minutes. I want to define my role within the organization. I want it to be clearly defined so that people understand where I begin and end. It's very clear from my experiences in my past that a lot of times, sometimes vice presidents of sales get blurred between where pipe stands in the pipeline and then where my role kind of begins and ends. I coach, train, onboard, and bring SDRs into the business development world so they are successful to the point where they're able to go out, research, find, and identify and qualify a new possible deal for the business. But it's so critical that there is a handoff in the process of getting these things to the next step. I can't stress enough how important it is that you are clearly understanding that, for me, that I understand that this is a process where I'm handing off the deal to the account executives. But I want to make sure it is so qualified that the account executive really understands the pain points and the challenges and the BANT qualifications necessary to take that prospect, that company, to the next level, to paint that picture of a future state so clearly that the account executives can just take that person on a journey that's really going to get them to a better place. I am focusing on leader-owned resources, priorities for individual performance, and use of contribution throughout the enterprise. I'm giving input to take input, and salespeoples and cross-functional peers and leaders to improve broader enterprise basis. I can't stress enough how important it is to cross-function and cross-sell within the organizations based on the products that we're selling. I want to help facilitate sales teams across the organization, but that means that I really have to step into my role clearly as a business development manager. As we move closer into the 60-day mark within the organization, it's really critical that that my establishment with these key stakeholders is really clear, that they know what they can count on me for. They can know what they can see on a daily, weekly basis. Production of business deals is a machine in sorts that requires everyday operations. Every operations includes activities that are performed by the SDRs on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis that perform at a level that we can pretty much guarantee a certain amount of deals being produced every month and then every quarter. So on average, we try to make sure that the operations are related to about 450 activities per week on average over the course of a month. So an activity is a phone call, an activity is a email, an activity is a social selling on LinkedIn. These activities are tracked within a marketing and enablement platform like Outreach or SalesLoft. And we are using these to make sure that so much activity is actually happening to guarantee that we're going to get production. Production being meetings that are opportunities that are so qualified, and we've understood that the prospect who we have spoken to is so interested that they want to take the opportunity to learn more and find out where they can take their business. And that's with our account executives. So clearly focusing our time on exactly what it means to do all this is what we're going to go through in the next hour. The sales lead really is to solidify the working relationships with the sales heads and the managers. So I see the VP of sales at your organization as the kind of conduit, the head of the orchestra who's really pulling all the pieces together, and the piece from us is the pipeline, which is the amount of new deals that we're producing for it. On average, we produce about 40, I don't want to misquote, so I won't say the misquote, but we are producing enough pipeline on average per week that we can supply the business with about 3x of what they need typically for their business to to grow. I'm going to use my current business as a basis for an example, which is we have an annual quota of about $22 million in closed deals, and we are looking to build about $60 million in pipeline. So it's about 3x 66. So we're a little behind just in the sheer fact that we had a lot of conferences this year. But the Q3 and Q4, we will be ramping up tremendously. So on average, we're producing about $500,000 in pipeline per week for our organization, which can get us to where we need to go. The key stakeholders are really the people that are enabling us to happen. We have marketing and demand generation. We have enablement, which is honestly a component of my role, which is the people who are providing the education and training about the technical aspects of the components of what we're selling. We have operations, which really stresses the hygiene of Salesforce and making sure all of our documentation is in a collaborative place. Strategically, I cannot stress that a CRM is vital to the success of any sales organization, because without it, we would be a mess. And clearly, it would be impossible to track, monitor, and engage with the customers in a way that was reliably strategic every day. So one of the critical things as an SDR manager is to get to know the customer base that we currently have. This customer base is going to really give us some insight into how we are going to learn and grow and scale our business, because every SDR manager really is being brought in to scale the business, is really being brought in to take one component of our business and grow it to an exponential level. That's really what an SDR, BDR manager is. They're growing the business exponentially. And we're trying to show as a manager that exponentially we can grow it by week, by month, by quarter at a certain rate. But part of that learning is learning how adoption from previous customers has quickly gone for. The cost of acquisition of new customers really changes when you have a BDR, SDR team, because we are cheaper than typically any inbound required product run, marketing run business development. We are more cost effective, but we are also more strategic because we are actually having nimble and engaging conversations with these prospects in a way that gets people talking. Prospects are 10 times, I don't even know what the percentage is highly, the odds of them wanting to engage in a deal with us is exponentially higher when we reach out to them. So our connection, reaching out to them, is so critical to what we are doing. I hope I'm doing this right. So, strategic accounts provide us an insight to help shape and validate our initial plans for functional improvement. Validate our initial plans, and then the prospects are critical to understanding how our best customers buy and use our products. It's so critical to have a really deep understanding so that when we are reaching out to them, we can have a conversation with them about what it means to be in their world. And we want them to understand that we relate to them. We are a part of their industry. We are a part of what it means to grow their business because we are enabling their business with our solution. Our solution and product is creating processes and solutions to how we can do more and have your business scale and grow. So that's really what it comes down to. So understanding how current customers and previous customers have enabled and worked with us has been so critical. I cannot stress that enough. Building a team. It is the heart, blood, is the backbone of every SDR leader, and it is the critical component of having a sense of leadership that can really build out the team that will really be successful. There are a lot of critical components to what it would mean to actually build a successful team. And I've built several successful teams and hit tremendous numbers. And I think there's a lot of key components of what I want there. To be very transparent, to start off, I want people who want to work in sales. I want people who want to become account executives. I want people who want to make money. I want people who know how to achieve everything they want with sales is their processes. So that being it is critical that you create trust and reliability in your relationships with them, and that begins with the interview process. So when you're recruiting, you typically work with a recruiter of some capacity who might screen on someone to do the job. And they might look at their background, they might look at their resume and their skills and determine whether or not they have the prerequisites that are necessary for what we are looking for. And that is critical for me to have someone with we've had many successes with entry-level people coming right out of college, which I've had tremendous success with, as well as people who've had some sales experience in some capacity. Sales could be anything. It could be retail sales. It could be real estate sales. It could be pretty much anything you can imagine of sales. It's the process of having a dynamic where you are moving someone along in a journey where they ultimately are choosing the outcome of purchasing what you are offering that's going to help them in their world in some capacity. So I believe once we've gotten to that point in the process of identifying a clear candidate based on their resume and their screen, the recruiter might do some assessments, just like this one, to get a basis for whether or not this person has the qualifications, but really comes down to the interview. The interview itself really is a true acknowledgement of the maturity, the responsibility, the ability to be a strong and effective communicator. The person has the tone of voice and the inflection and the verbal skills to be convincing and to be human, because there's nothing more awful than a robotic salesperson. A salesperson who comes on the phone and robotically is talking as if the person they're talking to has no humanity to them. SDRs and PDRs need to be humans. They need to be real people. They need to talk as if they understand when they're doing a cold call, they're interrupting someone's day, and having an understanding that that might be a bother. And there needs to be some talk track. There needs to be some language that recognizes I might be interrupting, but I have purpose. I have value behind what I am doing. And the value is to say, I can do this. I'm providing something that is integral to your world, and you might not even know it. But I have something that I really want to discuss with you. So I like to start any interview by making a personal connection. I like to talk about my background as an SDR, BDR 20 years ago. I like to talk about my experience being an account executive and what it means to move sales through a journey. But I like to get buy-in that I'm saying to the person that I'm working with, that I'm interviewing, that I'm here to make your experience positive and to hopefully have you join an organization that's really going to take you to the next level in your career. I'm there to sell the business, but I'm also there to evaluate whether or not you have the skills necessary to be transformative. Can you transform a conversation that's going to be mostly rejecting and saying no to saying, oh, I recognize this is something that I should be listening to, and I want to take it to the next step. So making a personal connection by letting my team members know during an interview that I'm a real person and that I'm a cheerleader for their success is a big part of what gets buy-in. People feel comfortable to open up to me and be transparent. That transparency is really critical to the success of the team, because I always say one of the most important things is I said, I need you to be honest with me on a daily basis. Because if you can be honest, you can let me know where you're at. If you're having a tough day, you're having no success, you're just not getting through to people, it can be frustrating. And that frustration can lead to people being like, I don't want to do this, and just shutting down. SDR burnout is a huge problem within the business development world, and I work every day to try to avoid doing that. I try to work through challenges in a way where the person is still taking a step forward and not feeling like I'm moving them backward. I want them to feel like I'm on their side, but I'm holding them accountable. Third part of the interview process is showing competence. Do you have the skills necessary to be transformative in a deal? Do you know how to move someone through a conversation in a way that the person ends the conversation feeling really good and excited about the meeting they're going to be joining in a future date? Are they feeling that they've shared enough information to make sure that they are in a place? They have a leader who might buy. There is budget. There is a need, and there's authority, and there's a time frame. We want to make sure that the person is really kind of shared as much information. And so the competency of an SDR is to make sure that we've actually asked the right questions. So that's critical. So those kind of things are really critical kind of core components of an SDR interview. I want to make sure that you can clearly identify what those are. Moving forward I actually like to do pitch interviews. I like to have my SDR candidates pitch me anything. It can be an Apple, it can be a software, it can be the last product they sold, but I want to hear them talk as a human to me in a way that makes me want to say yes to them. And how do I get to yes? So these pitch contests in the interview process are a great way to kind of sort out the competency of someone who even might have very little skills. I have gotten to the point in my career now where I've been able to see really great people who, with a little bit of coaching and training, can be extraordinary business people, extraordinary salespeople. And I can see also people with natural talent who can just shine through and can do it no problem. So moving forward, one of the critical parts of strategic success within an SDR team, within an organization, is to develop your brand as an SDR leader. You want to be recognized within the company that you have the skills and the competency to not only lead the team, but also have the team produce results. And that is a part of building a brand. You want people to know you as the person who builds results. You want the company to see in Salesforce the numbers grow. And I cannot stress enough how much that is a critical part of whatever you are doing. Building a brand is also continuing to build those relationships with key stakeholders. having relationships with them where you learn from their past successes and their strategic go-to-market plans they've had, and how you blend those go-to-market plans together to have one cohesive build company-wide go-to-market plan. Usually business development and sales development have a cohesive plan that works in collaboration alongside demand generation marketing. Those two together build the campaigns that both the marketing campaigns that are run as well as the SDR campaigns that are run as cadences in Outreach or Sales Loft. I cannot stress enough cadences, and I'll get to this in a little bit better. I'll get to this a little bit later, are the organization, the strategic organization of how an SDR person stays organized. The number one thing of a successful SDR is being organized. I cannot stress how much that every day as a leader, I'm always documenting in multiple places all of the components of my organization. I'm documenting in both Salesforce as well as in my own reporting methods in Excel, all of the tracking methods that are happening within my team's functionality. But in addition to that, I'm also documenting everything note-wise. I'm writing things down in meetings. When I'm in collaborative internal meetings, I'm always taking notes about initiatives and campaigns that we could do. And I'm always making sure that I'm reporting to who I report to on a weekly basis about everything that has been accomplished and documenting that reporting so that it's always clear about what's going on. But that is addition to building your brand. People want to know that you're reliable. People want to know they can count on you. And they can know that they don't have to worry about your organization, your sales and development organization. That is critical. So for me, that means understanding my company's priorities, keeping them in mind with my career, conducting in-depth tour and maturity assessments to identify and prioritize new standards, quickly understand organizational priorities and understand the full extent, scope where the predecessor underperformed. So if I'm replacing someone, I'd like to know exactly where I am needing to recognize things quickly. Strengthen relationships and explicitly signal continuity or discontinuity based on the performance of the predecessor. So those are critical components to really making it a standout difference in your brand. When you're continuing to be strategic, you're analyzing your company's success and failures and plan where to go from there. Assess the organizational culture. You know, this company's virtual, but a lot of the culture is built on these virtual calls that we're doing. Assess our current commercial performance in a robust way. How is the company performing? What is the market saying about us? So that when we, our SDRs, are on our calls or engaging in some outbound capacity, we want to be always on the cutting edge of what's being said about us. Evaluate our talent and resources and assess the organizational structures, technologies, and processes. Now allow me to make sure I'm clear. A successful strategic SDR team happens when it has the resources necessary. That means having a CRM like Salesforce, a marketing enablement platform like Outreach or Sales Loft, a data mining service like Zoom Info, and if not Outreach and Sales Loft, there is a great tool called Gong, which allows me as a sales manager to have my SDRs record their calls, and we can evaluate and train and coach them to be more successful as we learn key initiatives in those recordings. So it's critical, I cannot stress critical, that you have these resources as a part of your organization. We would struggle without them. So one of the critical things that I would do as an SDR leader to be strategic is to create and communicate priorities. strategize how to pursue and my company's goals, use effective business practices. Being professional and using effective business practices is critical to being successful. It continues to build your brand, and it also makes sure that you are seen as a reliable leader. Deliver a collective quick win is always great in the first 60 days. Having a win that means for an SDR world is a certain amount of pipeline that's over-delivered within a short period of time. For example, when my current team started with me a year ago, we built $2 million in pipeline in 3 weeks, and that was exceeded any record that had ever been produced in my company. And that was strategically the best results we could have ever launched my kind of time there with. And I'm very proud of that. Redefine operational and strategic priorities. It's critical, the priorities I find is to keep an SDR team happy and productive and organized. SDRs that are feeling burnt out and shut down slowly move away from their priorities. They don't take things seriously. They are strategically moving things farther and farther away. I cannot stress this enough. Strategic SDR burnout causes people to slow quit, which means they just slowly underperform. And that usually comes when they're not paid properly and they're not compensated fairly based on their work. So SDR compensation contracts are critical to the success of an SDR team. Having a fair and effective compensation plan is going to change the way you find results for your team. In addition to that, I will add right now, one of the ways that I've been strategic is to have a hierarchy of SDRs within my organization. So there's entry-level SDRs, which I've actually called BDRs, which move into SDRs, and then senior SDRs. So this graduation gives points of time. It gives people acknowledgments. If I get to 6 months and I get promoted to a SDR, and at that SDR page I get $5,000 more in my base compensation, and I get $3,000 more in my variable, which are very small amounts to add for a company, but it does a lot for someone psychologically to feel like I'm getting a little bump. That bump and that graduation is something they can put on their LinkedIn. That LinkedIn is then promotion to the company. It makes the company look good. It retains employees, and it keeps people talking. Anytime people are promoted on LinkedIn, it makes LinkedIn a notice, and it really does a lot of things. So when someone becomes a senior SDR, they're in that for 6 to 8 months. The goal is during that time, I've begun to train them to become an account executive or a sales executive or any kind of junior salesperson. And I work with them on deals that they build to become a salesperson. That movement gets people going. In addition to what I just said about LinkedIn, I'm actually coaching the SDRs in how to enhance their brand on LinkedIn, because it makes our business look stronger when their public-facing presence on social media is strong. It means when they reach out to connect with prospects, those prospects are engaged and they're interested because they see that our teams are leaders in the industry that we're selling into. So saying that, I believe in building business plans, and this is essentially a business plan for a verbal business plan for what I'm looking to accomplish within the organization. So, what is sales? What is sales processes? What is sales theory? What are sales methodologies? These are all things that are critical to really being successful with onboarding and bringing in new successful junior salespeople who are SDRs. And what I mean by that is it's critical that we actually create a onboarding process where the person is not an appointment setter. I cannot stress that enough. The person is actually beginning their sales career. And a sales methodology is really saying, where's the gap? Where is the medic? Two sales methodologies I use that really help to understand is where's the piece missing within this prospect's company that our solution or product can help fill and provide us an answer to. So we want our sales SDRs to have a beginning in their onboarding process of these sales methodologies. And that's part of what I do in my coaching and training, is to teach them to them. I give them homework assignments, I give them books to read, all around these sales methodologies. Then that gives me a chance to assess, after the first 30 days of their being on board, where are they at? How are they at being convincing, at being methodical, at being strategic and nimble with their thoughts and their words when they're having conversations with prospects? Sales operations and sales marketing alignment should be included in these conversations because this is how these people really blend to work together. I cannot stress how much marketing is connected to the SDR world. The SDRs are running campaigns that the marketing have built, but then again, also the SDRs are running campaigns that they are doing in Sales Loft or Outreach or Gong that they've built on their own, out of their own research they've found from companies that are related to the personas that we're trying to get into. To gain this knowledge, really, we have to have a frank conversation with our SDRs. We have to be frank about the way we approach things and be very direct with them about how we coach them around obstacles and objections. Objection handling is a real critical component to being an effective salesperson. Knowing when to be nimble and really ultimately not accept no when someone is giving you a no, but they're saying no in a variety of ways. Because there really is an answer to every objection. And really junior SDRs, as they grow in the hierarchy, they begin to learn objection handling over and over and over and become so nimble. By the time they become an account executive, they are quite good at being able to handle what they're looking at. And there's nothing better than recruiting an account executive who already knows the product and the solution and can handle the objections without having to go out and have a recruiter find them. So, we've now hired, we've now done an onboard and trained of some capacity. Ultimately, we're getting to the real nuts and the meat and potato of what it means to be a business development manager or an SDR manager and an SDR, because we are building pipeline. Pipeline being sales deals that are working their way through the sales cycle, and that is the pipeline. And that is a point where once we have trained, onboarded, and continue to coach on a weekly basis SDRs on how to handle these difficult conversations, we can then begin to start to look at how they're building pipeline. Pipeline is essentially an opportunity that's created that after it is created, it is put into Salesforce as an opportunity that's qualified with BANT criteria as well as TRAP questions that are really specific questions based on the solution and product that really affect the person. So I can't stress enough how much that is a critical component. This point, we're at the 90-day component of the first 30 first 30, 60, 90 days of a new SDR leader. And at this point, we're pretty close towards the end of the first quarter. And it's that point to evaluate, assess, survey how we have approached the implementation of this plan that we built for these this business generation model. The generation model, to be really clear, is a generation model that's based on the idea that we're having these human salespeople who are real people who are learning a product and a solution, but also applying the sales skills that are being coached by me in a way that gets people talking and gets people to have aha moments. Because SDRs are looking to have aha moments. SDRs are looking for someone who goes, you know what? I never knew that. And that might be a game changer for me. And that game changer moment is the moment the light bulb goes off as a salesperson, and that is the sale for the SDR. That is the part where you are a salesperson, when that aha moment. Now, it doesn't always happen every time, but when you become a senior SDR, you get really effective at doing that. And you get really effective in having someone go, I never thought of that. We want people to have that moment. We want people to go, I never thought of that. At this point in the 90-day window, we're really going to be talking about forecasting. And forecasting is the critical component to kind of say to your sales leader, it looks like we're going to have so much pipeline available to your salespeople by the end of the quarter. Obviously, every deal is passed over immediately after it's created and qualified. But we want to evaluate by the end of the quarter, how much did we actually produce? And is it still viable? And is it still in motion? My role in multiple companies has really changed a lot because I have experience as a closer. So I actually also end up coming around to the account executive side and helping to move things around. So I've been known to actually have that experience. So this forecasting is a critical component to being able to say what can close in what quarter. And you work with your sales leaders to be able to identify what came in what quarter and where in the sales process is it. At this point also, it's a great point to take a broader look at the team to determine how we've been able to enable them to look better, to succeed, identify their skills and knowledge gaps, and start brainstorming ways to fill those gaps. Because at this point, we've had 3 months, and we've been able to assess certain places where people are lacking and certain places where they're succeeding, and where we're acknowledging that succeedment. I can't stress enough, you have to acknowledge success, because people want to feel good about their job and they want to feel like their bosses are recognizing that success. People want to feel good that they're getting recognized. I should also assess how well the standards of performance are working in terms of encouraging sellers, obviously, towards success. To help that assessment, examine my top priorities in sellers and middle performers and below average performers. Ideally, a training and performance trainer should be able to enable all 3 groups to improve their performance. That was from my presentation. This is the third kind of critical component that I would be really focusing on as I got to the point in my process. So at this point, I've gained familiarity. I've been able to build somewhat of a beginning new brand. I've built relationships with key stakeholders. I have had a quarter under my belt as a leader. We've been able to produce a certain amount of pipeline. I've actually been able to forecast a certain amount that would be available to the salespeople. And at this point, it's all about metrics and data. So the question is, how do we replicate the success of the first quarter, but also refine and continue to improve on moving into the second quarter. How are my team setting our targets? And are those targets both ambitious and appropriate? Because you want people to feel like they're achieving their goals realistically, and meaning like they're actually getting to things where they can get paid. I can't stress enough. People want to get paid. And if they don't get paid, that's where things get bad. So if our metrics are showing us that they're not serving our team, and the data is showing us that we need to adjust our quotas, we need to adjust how we are approaching things, then we do so. So it's all about building a roadmap. So this first quarter is the first quarter of a year, and it really is a roadmap into figuring out what is the best angle to having success at an SDR team within the organization. So to achieve our annual revenue goals, we have to create a plan for the next year also. So we're looking at every quarter, and then we're looking at 4 quarters ahead to say, what do we need to do in the Q1 of that following year? Break it up into increments. Identify what strategic objectives must be achieved. So obviously, the great thing about SDR business development world is you can break things down into daily achievements. So I like to say that I like to have SDRs create 2 opportunities per day, because not everything survives the pipeline. But if you're able to create 1 to 2 opportunities per day, you will always hit your quota. You will always hit your quota. And that makes people feel good. So when they're getting up every day and they're having their coffee and they're like going, how do I approach this? They're going, I can approach this with the idea I can hit my quota if I hit 1 to 2 opportunities per day. So when you start your day, you go ambitiously with your energy and your approach, and you're working your cadences and your campaigns, and you create an opportunity. It gives you this sense of relief. Okay, I'm in a good place. I'm ready to now over-exceed and get to the next one. And that means that I could go over my number, and hopefully, if my comp plan allows it, have accelerators. So this objection handling, this strategic way of operating on a daily basis means we meet our weekly, our monthly, and our quarterly objections. And it means that we can really accomplish what we're looking for. So most organizations now understand that a sales-led go-to-market strategy, which is a business development-led go-to-market strategy, which means salespeople are reaching out to their prospects, their customers, rather than just doing advertising and marketing, waiting for the customers to come, is a much more cost-effective, but it's also a much more time-effective way of connecting with the customers and engaging with them and getting them into the sales cycle. Salespeople can target specific accounts and segments and to find change makers in the organization. Salespeople can then provide high value information to best fit potential customers sooner, speeding up the sales process much more effectively. Emphasis is on sales, such as a product or a marketing-like approach. Sales reps are able to pinpoint the most likely to make a purchase, speed up the sales pipeline, and generate greater revenue at a faster rate. And that is why SDR-led business organizations are the most effective. But having a leader who can lead them and train them and coach them on a weekly basis is the most effective way of making sure that they're on target strategically every week. Most sales reps recognize the hardest part is finding the deal. The hardest part of sales is finding someone even interested in a deal. It is the hardest part. So if anyone has ever thought that being an SDR is easy, they're lying. It is the hardest job in the world because you have to initiate business. You have to find a way to be a human and make someone feel comfortable and excited and not turned off that this is a sales process and feel like they want to work with you. BDRs nurture deals. They do the research, the time-consuming activities from the rest of the sales team. They also get to know the prospect leads so the sales can do what they do best, which is close deals. You'll be hard pressed to find a thriving organization without a BDR team. Really, the BDR SDR's team job is to get the attention of the customers. We're trying to get their attention. We're trying to say to them, I'm here to have a conversation about something that affects your work. I want to have a conversation with you about creating a work experience where you come into work and it's a little bit better. Where you come into work and you're not faced with 1,000 emails because you've been able to automate something. Your efficiency has gotten to the point where your calendar has more time in it because you're not bogged down by manual meetings. We are trying to create a picture for a customer where we're saying, this is going to make your experience coming to work better every day. And that means that you're going to feel better and you're going to be happier. I know it's crazy to say that, but ultimately we're trying to create happiness. We are an efficiency and a business-led generation business, but we're trying to create something that makes people go, yes, I'm super excited about this. The BDR's job is to get the attention. It's not an easy job, but which is a good reason why it should be separate position, not just added to the already overwhelming tasks of salespeople. As soon as the BDR has been able to transfer a lead to the sales team, the BDR goes back to finding more. Your sales team's job is made much easier by the fact the lead has already been educated about your company's services, instead of a cold lead, which is unknown pain problems and leads to business developments handing over already engaged in the conversation with someone they don't want to talk to. Talking to a prospect who wants to talk about your company services is different than a lead who felt pressured into a call. Much different. That's what is called appointment setting. To sum it up, business development reps are a vital part of the business. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. They are the critical component that really make a real difference in having a game-changing process. I can't tell you how many times that prospects, after they get to the salesperson, will go back and say, I had such a great time talking to David. He was so pleasant and fun and engaging and made me smile. He made me laugh. I can't tell you enough how often in my coaching sessions I talk about, if you make someone laugh, you have them. If someone's laughing with you, they want to spend more time with you. And if someone's willing to give you more of their time, that means you have more of an opportunity to continue to educate them, enlighten them, and get to that aha moment. I can't stress enough that it is exactly what makes sales so successful and builds out really large sales organizations and builds lots of revenue. As we move into this next part of the strategic building of a SDR team, it's critical that you recognize leadership. I believe in building a team lead within the organization. A team lead is someone who is not the manager or the boss of the team, but someone who is aligned with the manager in keeping policies and procedures and everything that has to happen going, but really serves as a peer to be mentored by and to be involved with questions involving the organization, the company, and everything. So one of the things that I really look forward to doing is finding someone within the SDR team that I can elevate to make them a team lead. This strategic role model is someone that can motivate the team on a peer level to keep the team on target. A lot of times SDRs see the manager as the boss, as someone who they have to just do the things the boss is saying. But a team lead is someone who's trying to get buy-in and trying to say it's worth it for the team's overall camaraderie and success to have exactly what we want to have happen. The team lead can also motivate someone in a way that is feeling discouraged and feeling like I can't really get to my goals. So that's why I always make sure I have a team lead on my team. A team lead is basically a senior SDR who has the experience and the know-how and the maturity to handle the responsibilities of being kind of a secondary adult. So I was tasked with developing a prospecting process and in maximizing sales results. I believe I've gone through this exact process with you, but ultimately I can say that strategically it's about being very organized and being very structured. I cannot stress enough that it is a process of making sure that you have daily activities and work that get you to your common long goal. So let me do a coaching session on a mock role model coaching session on that I might do with a struggling SDR who is struggling to find on how to gain attention or to get someone to open up on a cold call. Because a cold call is the process of calling someone who will not know who is calling them, and we're trying to have an opener. And an opener can be a lot of different things. An opener for a lot of salespeople is being very direct. I am calling from X company and I'm looking to have a conversation with you about what is really holding you back from getting you where you want to go with your financial software. And what are the challenges you're currently facing that are holding you back? Now, saying that approach is going to have usually confusion when the person, because psychologically, when someone's answering an unknown call, their brain goes into identifying mode. I need to identify who this person is. I need to have a specific point of reference saying where this person's calling from. So it's really crystal clear that you connect the dots so the person can go, okay. I like to use the example when your bank calls or your doctor's office calls and they say, this is Dr. Jones, and I'm calling in reference to your last visit. Super clear. We know exactly who this is, so let's make sure we're being as clear as possible when it comes to our calling out cold. So I would say, Mr. Jones, this is David Boussier, calling from your provider. I'll start that again. This is David Boussier. I'm actually calling from the company that actually handles all of the most common challenges around financial solution software. And I know that your role, based on my research, handles analysis of criteria in forecasting business relationships. And I had an understanding, and I apologize for calling out of the blue. By the way, I understand how busy you are, so I'm going to keep this brief. But I understand, if you could only imagine my job and how complicated it is and having to do calls like this, but I think you're going to like this. I think you're going to really enjoy what could come from learning about this. And what could come is you feeling a lot better going into work every day. What could come is that you feel like you're getting your job done at 4 o'clock and having that last 5 o'clock hour to have a cup of coffee. What it could come is that your outlook looks a lot emptier and that your calendar looks more free. How would that sound to have that kind of life going into work every day? So saying that, that's an example of an opener that you could use as an actual way. A lot of people, when you paint that picture, are going to say, yeah, I'd like that experience. Yeah, I'd like to have that happen. Now, saying that, they might again go, who is this? And be like, I can imagine you're still confused, but I'm gonna make sure you understand that I am that guy doing a cold call, and it's really that kind of phone call. But I promise this is actually working within the same field as you. I actually belong in the same industry as you. So I work with people just like yourself doing your job title. So saying that, that's an example of how you kind of get a call going. From there, you might open it up to saying, listen, Mr. Jones, I understand clearly that a lot of what you're working on is critical to the component of your business. And I want to make sure you're acting the most efficient and automated. I want to make sure you're not wasting time with anything manual. So I think you should always be exploring how to make your business operate better, more efficient, and have more automation. And like I said, we're trying to paint that picture of your life looking a lot better and a lot less headache. So what I would like to do is have a meeting with you when I'm not calling you out of the blue like this, isn't it awful? Where I can talk to you about what it would look like to have a software that would actually change that for you. And I'm looking at next Thursday, and I see some times on my calendar, and I'm wondering if they would work good for you. Let's look at the morning and the afternoon. Oh, the morning works good? That time sounds great. Now that I've actually gotten that on the calendar for you, I'm going to send you an invite with some information. In that information, you're going to see some case studies as well as some links to our website. Please feel free to browse it. Please accept the invite so I know you got on your calendar. Also, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a couple of quick questions, and those questions are really to cater your call to your specific situation, because I don't want to waste your time on something that's irrelevant to what you're kind of all about. So now I'm going to ask those questions. Okay, now I'm going to stop with that. It's very clear, you can see how I moved that person through the process and got to the point where I've really qualified them and gotten them to really open up to me. It's not really easy to do on a mock call to really tell they're laughing, but when they laugh, they're really excited and happy. So that's what I'm trying to do. So at this point, I believe I have been strategic in being able to walk you through how I kind of enable a new SDR team. I've kind of identified the stages of a first 90 days and how I'd bring it into together. I'm ultimately going to maximize sales results by having the best, most qualified pipeline there is, and my VP can count on it. I want to showcase my personality here. I want you to see that I'm a real human too, and I train people to be as realistic and human as possible and be the most non-salesy you can be. I don't want SDRs on my team sounding like robots. I want them to sound like real people who have real problems and real challenges and things like that, and bring those to the conversation because it makes it more real and makes people open up. So I want to say thank you for this time. I hope this recording is suffice, and I really look forward to the next step in the process.